This is SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. Brought to you by Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com. The National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org. Buffalo Wild Wings. If it's game day, Buffalo Wild Wings is the place to be. Alltech Lansing. Just listen with Alltech Lansing, perfecting sound since 1927. And by SWBC Mortgage, customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Now your hosts, Nate Newton and Bobby Belt.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Cowboys Crosstalk. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. Thank you for joining us on 105 Through the Fan and on DallasCowboys.com and all variety of platforms that they represent. I'm Bobby Belt from 105 Through the Fan. Tonight I'm joined by, normally I go straight into Nate Newton. That's not the case tonight because I'm joined by Tommy Yarish and Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com. First timer. Yeah. Tommy Yarish on Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, happy to be here. This is a great crew that we've got for my first time, so I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, and it's you get to be part of a special show because
Absolutely.
We're joined as always by the 3-time Super Bowl champion and 6-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton, but this is a special setup today.
Yes, it is.
Because Nate Newton is the focus of our conversation tonight. He is slid one chair over to the far right.
That's right.
And he is going to be the focus of our conversation tonight as our Cowboys legend. Nate Newton, thank you for joining us.
Yes, and this is Nick.
I said Nick Eatman and Tommy Yarish.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. This is your show tonight, Nate.
This is Nick Eatman.
I said it was
Cowboys.com.
Yeah. But this is your show, remember?
Yes.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the tea and for the, these beverages, man, and way to come right into our show, man.
No, that's what happens.
Look at this. That tea was timed perfully for you.
Yes, it was, man. Thank you, sir. Oh, man. Wow.
So, Nate, while you're getting your spot of tea,
right.
Spill the tea.
I obviously, we've
Leave it.
had so many different conversations with you here,
Yes.
Nate. So, I mean, there's so many details that we already know about your career in the NFL and the way that you came up. But I mean, there's a lot I think that we haven't touched on and stuff that we can dive a little deeper into. One of those is just the fact that it's amazing to take a look at the coaches you've played for.
Yes, sir.
In your career. I mean, all the way back to, Florida A&M. You've got Rudy Hubbard, Joe Gibbs, Steve Spurrier, Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer, Chan Gailey, and George Seifert. That's 10 Super Bowl rings.
Yes, sir.
7 national championships.
There you go.
5 NASCAR Cup Series championships.
Figure it out, baby.
And Chan Gailey.
Man.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail
Nate,
from all those
Nate,
guys.
Thanks to Troy.
Nate, when you, I want to talk first about your time with Rudy Hubbard, a guy who was just recently in the last couple of years inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame and recognized for the accomplishments that he had. But I know you talked to us last week about when you were in high school, you didn't have like a big drive at that time to be a great player. You just liked hitting people.
Yeah.
You enjoyed the physicality of the sport. When you got to Florida A&M and you got to play under Rudy Hubbard, is that where you started to see any of that love?
No,
not at all?
I was still a wild man. And we some of the things, I was just so out of control. I didn't get under control until maybe when I was in my 40s. I've been an out-of-control guy all my life, just having fun, living the sinful life, just for a simple word. And I enjoyed it. Like in college, right before a game, I would give you my pre-game, getting ready. I brought $1,500 worth of damage to a room before a football game. Me and this dude in a wrestling. We tore the bed up. We tore the tables up. About 2 weeks later, Coach Rudy Hubbard called me in and said, man, you just cost the university $1,500. Back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Today, that probably would be about $3,000 or $4,000 tearing up all that stuff in the room. That's who I was. I was wild, man, and I enjoyed it.
It's so interesting because I know last week you said even during your time here in Dallas that it wasn't even something where like you had developed this obsession for the game the same way. It was more you didn't want to let people down. You didn't want to let Troy down. You didn't want to let Michael Irvin down. how much of that aspect of it did you not find that family aspect and that feeling of I want to lean, I want to be somebody these guys can lean on? Did you not find that till Dallas, or was that something during your time?
I found it was in me when I got to Dallas. You know, everybody, Coach Hubbard did everything in his power, bless his heart, to help me be a better man. I didn't want to be a better man. I loved being, at that time they called me Big Time. I loved being Big Time Newton. That's who I was. That was my focus. I met a guy last night, said, man, I went to school with you. I was in this class with you. I said, wow, you knew the crazy Newton. He said, yeah, I knew the crazy Newton. I mean, so, but when I got to the Cowboys.
You went to class?
No. Sure didn't. No, go to class for what?
Well,
Why?
I don't know. He said he went to class with you.
Yeah, no, he went.
School.
He graduated.
Okay.
And I attended the University.
They were in the
Florida
same
A&M.
zip code on a campus.
There you go.
together.
There you go.
Enroll
There you go.
on the sheet, on the roster.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had 5-star ratings, but I was just doing it a different way.
Who was better at that time, you or Pam Oliver?
She was good at what she did. She was a quarter miler. She was good at what she did, and great young lady, man. Great young lady. But I was the man. I was a Big Time Newt, baby. She was just Pam.
You know, it's something where I saw an interview you did years ago. I think it was like 10, 15 years ago, where you had talked about at that time when you were at Florida A&M, and I know they interviewed Pam Oliver as part of that, and Pam was like, yeah, at the time Nate was kind of mean.
Yeah.
And you had talked about that. You said back then I wasn't very much of a nice person, which is wild to anybody who comes up here to Cowboys Club and gets a chance to talk to you, and they're just like, oh my gosh, it's jovial Nate Newton. He's just as big personality and friendly as you'd expect. What led to that? Those moments in college where you felt like you were a little bit gruffer and meaner and not that guy that people felt like they could just walk up to and approach and talk to?
I don't know. All I knew is that when I left my mom and dad's house, I was going to be my own man, and I was just going to do it how I wanted to do it. And then come hell or high water, I was just going to live how I thought fun was. And my fun never was going to be Nick fun. It never was going to be your fun, Tom. It never. I mean, if we drank, I was going to drink the most. If we did other things, I was going to do it the most. And trying to run girls, even though girls wouldn't deal with me, I was going to try to be the best at that. So I can't tell you why I was like that. I was raised from a good home, great mother and father, never wanted for anything. Things that was in reason they gave to me. The coaches loved me. I was, we didn't have 5-star. Either you was good or you wasn't good. Georgia wanted me. Auburn wanted me. Everybody wanted me except the black schools. But everybody else wanted me. Notre Dame until they went to saw my grades, and then they never came back and talked to me anymore.
You know, Nate, when I listen to those coaches that he reads off the list, I think about, you know, in today's game, sometimes when you see some coaches struggle, it's because they can't get their players to buy in.
Right.
When you look at that list, they get guys to buy in. When you look back at the coaches that you've had, what are some of those strategies that stuck out to you that, you know, eventually made you say, like, hey, I'm going to go run through a wall for this guy? It
was always about the hard work and being out front. I never played for a coach that wasn't direct. I've always been fortunate to play for men that will look you in your eye and say, hey, man, you wrong, you this, you that. Let me help you fix it this way. Or you're not going to make the team. Like Coach Gibbs called me in his office and say, man, I want you to make this team. But what you did last night put you in a bad position. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, I know, Coach. Man, what I'm trying to tell you, you can make this team. Just do the right thing. All right, Coach. All right, Coach. But, of course, I didn't do the right thing, and, of course, I didn't make the team. You know.
One of the things that stands out to me when you look at that list of coaches, though, that's absolutely wild. And like we said, we just listed off so many accomplishments. I don't know this for sure. I would bet if I looked it up, there's not many players that have played for as many Super Bowl winners as you have, for instance. I would imagine you're probably high up on that list. But when you think about, you played for Steve Spurrier before Steve Spurrier was Steve Spurrier.
Right.
You played for Jimmy Johnson when he was college, but before he'd come into his own at the NFL.
Right.
Same thing with Barry Switzer, somebody coming to the next level and proving themselves. How much? What are your thoughts or your memories about playing for those three and watching them develop into the type of personas and leaders that they would become known for?
One thing, they were good at dealing with people. Coach Johnson knew just how to. It's like he went and read a bio on you, or he called your high school coach or whatever, but he knew just how to handle you. He knew who he could cuss at. He knew who he had to talk gentle to. He knew who he had to put in the middle. I mean, it just this dude was a mastermind. Now, he had his core beliefs. If you do this and you do that and you do this, you'll make my team. But he handled each guy so differently. And Leon Lett is the one guy that you could talk about when he went and hit that ball after a field goal or a punt or something. And Leon went and ran and hid in the x-ray room because he was so fearful that Coach Johnson was going to cut him. You know, Coach Johnson had that look on his face. But when he went in there to Leon, it was just so gentle and so kind. Leon come out, man, kind of, you know how Leon is. And you all right, Leon? Yeah, I'm good. But until Coach Johnson went back there, that dude was hanging out in the x-ray room. Yeah. So, but he knew how to handle it. And I was that guy that the coaches knew. Sometime he'll talk to me not to say something to Big E. So he'll get all over me trying to get a point across, but he knew Nate don't care. Nate will walk right out here. Coach, how you doing, man? What we going to do? What we going to eat for lunch today? Because he knew I was just that guy. You couldn't say too much to me to hurt my feelings, or you couldn't, and I don't want to say belittle me because he never did that, but just the criticism that he would come at you sometime, he knew I was that guy. Hey, whatever. As long as I don't want to say what I was going to say, but, whatever.
Let's run to our first break. We got Nate Newton as our Cowboys legend tonight on Cowboys Crosstalk. We're joined by Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com.
Nick Eatman.
Tommy Yarish from DallasCowboys.com. And Nate, as we throw it to break, just one thing for you to consider, a question as we throw it to break. I'm curious. You talk about how there reached a point in your career in Dallas where you said, I don't want to let these guys down, and that's what drives me. Yeah. And so I'm curious, when was that moment where it clicked for you and you realized, I don't like this feeling of letting them down and I don't want this to be an issue anymore. This is my motivating factor. That's next on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Go Cowboys!
Back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. For the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk, I'm Bobby Belt from 105 Through the Fan, joined by Tommy Yarsh from DallasCowboys.com, Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com.
Nick Eatman.
And our Cowboys legend, Stevie, you just heard him. I know you thought he must have been absent. I got two introductions down. You didn't hear him. No, it's because he's in the far chair today. It is the three-time Super Bowl champ, six-time Pro Bowler, hopefully future Hall of Famer, Nate Newton. Nate, thanks for sliding over one chair for us tonight.
Yo, bro, you gonna get this right. I'm in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm in
Pro
the
football
yeah,
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I'm in the Hall of Fame, baby. I'm a Hall of Fame player, baby.
How
Yes,
dare
I
you,
am.
Bobby.
No doubt about it. He's a Hall of Fame player. Now, we just asked you when we were going to break, Nate. You talked about how the drive for you became, I don't want to let Troy down. I don't want to let Michael Irvin down, Emmitt Smith down. Was there a point, because you obviously said that developed that way here in Dallas. You didn't arrive here totally like that. Was there a point during your time in Dallas where you had a moment where you said, man, that feeling of letting Troy Aikman down or Michael Irvin down hurts so much more than any sort of other thing that has pushed me before, and I don't want to feel that feeling ever again?
The thing about it, when Jimmy got here, you know, I talked to Jimmy. I was like, oh, man, I'm finna get cut. We was doing these 16-110s. And Jimmy said, nah. Because I went to Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, you know, I you normally call him Coach Johnson. Coach Johnson, hey, man, you might as well cut me now. Because I'm not going to make these 16-110s. He said, tell you what you do whatever you can do, and then you just start running. Don't stop. You're going to be behind everybody, but just don't stop. Don't make me have to say something to you. I said, okay, Coach, so, you know, that's the asthma. Remember the asthma guy?
Yeah.
You know, I looked at him like, bro, you should have just kept running. But, you know, I just kept running. That was the first time I said, wow. You know, Jimmy making a little exception for, you know, a guy that thought he was going to be cut. Then I would watch Troy, his seriousness of how he worked out. I watched Michael Irvin before Jimmy got here, sit on the bench and cry like a baby because we were losing. Then I watched Emmitt, you know, I talked to him, and he was like, man, this is who I want to be. And these guys working out, being the best they can be. Then we started turning around. We started winning. And here me with my antics, always jumping offside, and people just looking at me like, come on, man. You know, we can win this game. You know, stay on side, you know. And I'm like, wow, these guys care. I mean, and then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I got to be a little bit better. I got to, you know, and I started trying to be better but didn't know how. I didn't know how to be a professional because I never tried in my life to be one. So I started working out just a little bit more, start cutting down on the drinking a little bit more. And then when Charles Haley got here, he said, man, he came in our locker room and just had our offense. He just broke down our whole offense. What they saw us as 49ers, what they thought we were in each player. He broke down Troy all the way down to me. So, and then when he did that, you know, my first thing was to go at him, you know, and go at him, you know, and but I didn't. And he came up to me and said, hey, now Nate, what I need for you to do is when I look at you on film in your first 6 games, you are all-pro. There's no doubt you should be an all-pro. You should be a Pro Bowler. He said, this is how we're going to do it. You're not going to fall out of shape like you do every year. You're going to be in better shape by the end of the year. And he said, I want you to meet me over here on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We're going to work out. And I'm like, what time? And he said, I want you here back probably about 5. So we'll get out of practice, and we'll be back by 5, and we'll work out. And that's the first time I'm like, wow. And these guys making plays. And all of a sudden, I started going to Pro Bowls. I started being all pro. And so, and I'm like, you know, cut down on the offsides. I still jumping offside, but cut down on the offsides. And then when you see people like Big E come in and change the culture of how we play, and I sat next to him, and if I didn't have a good game or if he felt that a lesser player got the best of me, I had to hear that. And so it changed who I was and the mentality of you know, these guys see a career. That's why I think these guys are Hall of Famers, because they saw it a long time ago, whereas it took me a minute. You know, unfortunately for me, I played 12 years, you know, because this thing could have been over earlier than that.
You know, when the Cowboys won their first Super Bowl in the 90s, I mean, I was a huge Cowboys fan, and so it finally got to see a Super Bowl win. NFL Films put out a video of, you know, the year, you know, the Cowboys won. I watched that probably 100 times. And one of the things I remember, you talk about becoming a leader. I remember there's a clip from the Eagles playoff game, you know, in the divisional round.
Right.
And you were telling maybe Isaac Holt or Kenny Gant, play smart. Tell those guys on special teams, play smart. You could tell you would become the leader right then and there.
Yeah.
Like, and probably before that. But at that point in time, like, you know, you were the guy that they were saying, hey, Nate, play smart. Now you're the one doing that.
Yeah.
So it seems like it trickled down from Troy and Michael and Charles, like you said. Now you were doing that.
The thing that when you're a championship team, everybody has their opportunities. And when you have a new guy or a young guy, you don't want them to trip up. One thing that Jimmy was ultra good at was getting raw talent. He could get the raw talent. He had to hurry up, quickly develop it, because we were winning at that time. So your practices were a lot more serious. And I ain't talking about the hitting. I'm talking about just the mental part of it. And so you had to share. You know, like as great as Larry Allen is, and thank God he wasn't a left guard at the time, I was not going to deny him, hey, man, you need to move your feet like this. Or, hey, bro, if you just wait a minute and punch like this. We shared, bro. And so with Charles Haley sharing, with Tony Tolbert saying, hey, man, I could tell you was going to do this. Like Charles like, oh, man, I knew I had you to the inside because how you set your feet. Just always sharing information. And it was just like we having this conversation, that's how our conversations would be.
You know, you mentioned younger players and kind of having to get them up to speed. I think that's a good parallel with what we're seeing right now in this year's Dallas Cowboys team. From your experience with those guys in the locker room back when you were playing, what was it that got those guys up to speed so fast and had them contributing at a high level early in their careers?
The thing that today's NFL is missing, and a lot of coaches try to tell you, is the competition. The true competition. You know, it's not there. But, you know, you get locked in. The salary cap is a great thing, I think. But once players become who they are, and once we as media and fans anoint them, a lot of times they save it for the game. And so when you save it for the game, you know, you may not practice as hard as you need to. You may not be as focused as much as you need to, and that hurts you because now your technique suffers. And now when you're trying to tell a guy, see, Charles would tell me, hey, man, you sat your feet like this, I jumped inside on you. Well, the next play, we were wide open. Well, if you tell a guy that now, he never gets to work on it. So a lot of times you do have to work in practice. Not all the time. Some players could just do it. Like Mark Stepnoski, he could see it on film, he could do it. I had to do it in practice. I had to see it on film, write it down, and do it in practice. I had to cover all three steps, visual, physical, and mental. Step was just mental, you know, so. And a lot of times, like I talked to Coach Solari today, and I know he thought I was coming up to try to tell him, and I talked to the strength coach, and I told them both the same thing. Coach, tell that kid to calm down. Just tell him to settle down.
Tighten.
Yeah, just ease up, brother. Don't overthink this thing. Let your natural ability, because the kid, what we saw in training camp, the kid got natural feet.
Yeah.
But be like, well, okay, if he got natural feet, how does he keep getting beat to the inside? Well, the bottom line is he don't believe in his feet because he's jumping out so soon. Or he kicking out laterally too fast. All he got, as good as his feet is, he can almost be a step slower to take away that natural jump to the inside. But for some reason, he panicking. You know, he got long arms. Maybe it's the strength, the lack of strength, or the lack of confidence in his strength. But I don't want to ruin this kid, and so, you know, you don't want to say nothing too bad. But like I tell people, sometimes just calm down. Your first-round pick, let that be to your advantage. Don't let that be a pressure point. Like, hey, I'm a first-round pick. I'm going to get these reps. They're going to give me these reps. you know, is just start taking advantage of each rep that you get.
And to build off of that with Guyton specifically, he's playing a position he hasn't played a lot in left tackle. How much harder does that make that learning curve?
It's great because it don't help when the first 3 or 4 guys you face is top 10 talent.
Yeah.
You know, in this league of 0 to 60 in training camp where you can miss all the days you want and then go to 0 to 60. Let me tell you a quick story. You don't I played football, but I walked up to a guy. The Rams was out there practicing. I walked up to a guy, and I heard a guy say, man, I know this is just practice. But, man, once again, we ain't going to be able to stop the run. You know who that was?
Nick Eatman.
Nicky, yeah, he said, man, I know it's just
we were
practice.
just talking, Nate.
Yeah, but yeah, and so
you could see it on those goal line drills where they just were pushing them in.
And so a lot of times when you have young guys, you have to work them a little bit. I ain't saying you have to go every drill, but sometime, especially when you got a guy at a new position, you know, we needed Micah in practice every day with some pads on. So this kid could get every rep. I'm going to say this and I'm going to leave it alone. The day he walked in there for OTAs, y'all, and I'm always say this as long as I'm a part of this group. When you draft a guy in the first round, you do not have the luxury anymore to wait.
Yeah.
He missed 200 reps in OTAs, and he missed 150 reps in training camp. Those were valuable reps that was missed.
We're going to take our second break now. Before we do, I want to, again, leave you with a quick question, Nate. You've expressed your own frustration about lack of toughness or vocal leadership at times with this current Cowboys squad. So hearing you describe how guys started leveling up and Tony Tolbert and Charles Haley and the accountability and stuff like that, and I think I know the answer to this, but we'll still throw it to break with this. I want to know, do you think that you guys just had a unique, rare number of competitors and leaders, or do you think leadership is just that contagious when it's done right? And so we're going to hear from Nate Newton on that next on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Go Cowboys!
Back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. I'm Bobby Belt from 105 Through the Fan. We've got Tommy Yarish from DallasCowboys.com, Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com, and as Nate was just pointing out during the break, from DC Storyline.
Yeah.
One of the most active, wildly
This
popular.
dude got a brain like you wouldn't believe for stuff in
Oh
the
my
past.
gosh.
Yeah.
No, it's absurd the stuff that he can tap into. I need to have you for Babe Laufenberg's trivia question each week.
Oh, let's go.
I got to have you sitting right there next to me because I freeze like deer in the headlights occasionally on him, and it frustrates me.
I was 1 for 2 today on the show. I was a little disappointed.
Oh.
I got Carl Poe as an
Right.
answer. I don't know if you
Right.
remember him.
Yeah,
but
I
I didn't get the
remember
last
Carl.
time the Cowboys had a tie. It was the 49ers, 1969.
That was the last
Yeah.
time they tied?
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, well, you learn something new every day.
There you go.
We're joined tonight by Nate Newton, the 3-time Super Bowl champion and 6-time Pro Bowler. He is our Cowboys legend this evening, sliding over one chair and letting us pick his brain a little bit.
And former bully, sounds like, from the FAMU days.
I mean,
that was me, man.
Yeah,
I
but
was straight up, man. Bully.
Wait. Time
Yeah.
out. I don't know about that date. Can I tell a story?
Yeah,
here real
please
quick?
do.
Okay. I'm going to tell this story.
Okay.
My first training camp covering the Cowboys.
What year?
1998.
Yes, sir.
Wichita Falls. I was a lot less cheeseburgers than this, and so I was at practice, and I'm standing like in the end zone. It's like a goal line drill, all right. And all of a sudden, here they come, like sweep left. Emmett, Chris Warren, who knows who was running. All of a sudden, here's Nate, and I'm like out of Nate's way. I'm not. Oh, here he comes. But and you ran about 50 yards, didn't hit anyone. So I'm moving over here, and he's about where he is right now. He just decides to shove me because he could.
I didn't hit nobody else,
He didn't hit
man.
anyone.
I didn't hit nobody. I hit somebody.
And so
when I run
he just
this.
kind of shoved me. I go flying this way. I don't think it went down, but I probably had to brace myself. And that's why I realized, like, why? Because
It's just,
it just felt wrong
yeah,
not to hit
to
somebody.
run that far,
Somebody.
to be that fat and run that far, and
I'm
not
gonna
hit
hit
something.
someone.
Yeah.
This goofy dude.
You
You're getting hit.
You got to hit somebody. Now, we mentioned there, you said we said the Florida A&M bully a
Yeah.
little bit, but you talked about, and we've painted this already, how you had this shift when you got to Dallas and you realized, oh, I'm playing for something bigger than me or
Right.
my attitude or whatever else. I'm playing for like the I don't want to disappoint these guys. I don't want to let
Right.
these guys down. And you listed, it seems like, you've listed 15 names who were leaders
Right.
for you guys there. And you stepping in and becoming one through that. So the question I threw at you before the break, because I know you've been frustrated at times with the
Right.
lack of vocal leadership here. You've talked about it on this show. Do you feel like you guys had just a rare collection and number of leaders on your football team? Or do you think that, hey, when leadership is done right from a few, that's what happens. It spreads and other guys naturally become leaders and it's contagious, and that's why it's so critical for a couple guys to stand up and be those leaders?
The 49ers left tackle. The 49ers 2 years ago, both linebackers. The 49ers, Joey Bosa. Those are leaders. Not only vocal, but how they play. It's how you play and what you're willing to share on that practice field. And when you say what you say is what counts. I mean, a lot of people chirp. I mean, we every week we hear some certain guys chirping, but we never see the back. You
You ever seen a leader
Yeah.
that didn't make the Pro Bowl? Because I'm talking about, like, you're sitting here saying, like, guys say, like, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that. But if you're a second teamer, or if you're average, or if you're
you
also
stay in your place.
that's what I'm saying. So I feel like leadership is the great play. If you're not a great player, I've seen a backup running back here try to be a leader, and
It don't work.
He got 5 carries a game.
Maybe on case on.
Yeah. The thing is,
Same number.
but the thing is,
Not.
I feel so bad for Troy because they threw Troy to me under the bus because people saw Troy in the films coming at the offensive line. Troy maybe did that 7 or 8 times in 2 years, but they found that film where he's going at us. Now they expect for Dak in this modern day and era to do the same thing. Won't work. Right now, you and your receiver can't even get on the same page. You think if you throw him under the bus out there in front of 100 million people, you think he'll show up in practice the next day? I don't think so. So it is what it is. You just have to find a way as the quarterback, offensive play caller, and head coach. You just have to find a way to make it work. I mean, there's nothing else to be said, fellas. If you think that going out eating a steak dinner makes you close, that don't make you close. You have to have a common goal, and that goal has got to be winning. And that is when I became closer to my teammates. When my common goal is I'm getting better. I won't let these guys now, but at the end of this, I'm going to win. If that common goal and that common thread is not winning, you'll have a bunch of bad attitude acting guys. What can Dak do? Please don't fire me. What can Mr. Jones do? Once you give him the bag, as these young people call it, tell me what can you do? You got to rely on the drive, the enthusiasm, the want to. Michael Irvin, people never call Michael Irvin selfish. I call him selfish all the time. They're like, why you call Mike selfish? Well, I mean, he wanted the ball every time.
Every time.
He was going to raise sand if you didn't give it to him. Emmett was selfish. He wanted the ball, and he was like, hey, Mike, don't score down there because I want to run the football in. I mean, they used to laugh about it. But that selfishness was channeled through team. I know I got to have Nate right. I know I got to have – well, you ain't never had to get Big E right. That was always right. And Larry Allen was always right. But you had certain guys you had to do check boxes on, and I was one of those guys. So that is – you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if a guy don't care, Jimmy was able, because we had no salary cap, when he saw a guy didn't care, and especially if he had no ability that he could try to forge and work, they were gone, bro. You can't do that. You can't just get rid of an offensive lineman. They are so rare. A decent, just a guy that's just a notch below average, they are so rare. So you got to keep everybody you can.
Nick, I know you were talking about something during the break that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, it feels like, we've heard Dak talk about practice and how they're struggling there. And I've heard from coaches and players over the years, you can win and lose games in the middle of the week, by your preparation. People say you can check out. You don't check out on Sundays, but you might check out during the week. And I'm not saying this team's doing that. But how do they – you said practice is different. How do they become a better practicing team based off the rules and regulations they have here?
Speed. One thing I would say that Troy was spot on was –
with his criticism?
The other day when he said what he said, Michael Irvin, Alvin Harper, Kevin Martin, what was our little guy from South Dallas, came from – punt return from Miami. Kevin Williams.
Yeah.
One thing they were not allowed to do, because if you do it once or twice, it is too many times. You had to come off the ball running. You can have your offensive line jog. You can have your defensive ends jog. But in no way in the world can you ever have your wide receivers not running wide open, because you are distorting the next man route. When you are so selfish that you cannot get off the ball when you know you got a deep post so my man Fergie can come underneath and catch that ball for a first down, that is selfish, that is wrong, and it ain't going to never be right in my eyesight. Troy had that spot on. You can't have a body language where you getting ready to run a slant, you sitting there and your slant's just stuttering. Man, take off, drive through that guy inside shoulder and slant so we can get this guy over the top, because they're going to bring the safety and the linebacker down there on you. So now we got Cooks or the other boy streaking down the field. Come on, man. That was right. That was right.
I don't know if I can follow that up.
That was right, man.
Well,
let's jump to our last break a little bit early because I know we want to get into some of this 49ers stuff and set that up there and get some more of Nate's thoughts because, like I said, I think everybody just needs to marinate on what Nate just said for the next couple of minutes.
Team ball.
So when we come back on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk, we will preview this 49ers game a little bit, get into some of these injuries. These are two very depleted teams, it feels like right now, but a critical point for both of these teams as they enter Week 8. That's next on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Go Cowboys! Go Cowboys! Go Cowboys! Go Cowboys!
Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. I'm Bobby Belt from 105 Through the Fan, joined by Tommy Yarge from DallasCowboys.com, Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com, and our Cowboys legend this evening is the three-time Super Bowl champion and six-time Pro Bowler, Nate Newton. Nate, this is a very big game they have coming up with the 49ers this weekend. It's one where there's been a lot of bitterness for this Cowboys team in recent years. I looked something up the other day. I believe it was when I looked it up this morning. I think 9 of the players that started in the last playoff game that Dallas and San Francisco played a year and a half ago, whatever it was, 9 of the 22 starters are still on the team, which means most of them are gone. And or won't be available because of a Micah Parsons injury or DeMarcus Lawrence or whatever else. Heading into a game like this where in past years they've tried the angle of, man, we want the juice of revenge and guys who remember what this feels like, is there a little bit of a benefit potentially to walking into this game with youthful ignorance guys who say, I don't have an idea of what this team's done to us, and I don't view them as this big bad wolf. They're just another team across from us?
Yes, I would say that would be positive if you were, say, maybe 5-1, and you have been winning tough games. Because the 49ers game, we have a lot of people out. They have it's still going to be a physical, tough game, and we have not proven yet as of today when we play equal or better talent that we can overtake this talent. And I know that Guyton is not a played against him, but he finna open his eyes. He can finna go into another tough game. I know that Cooper hasn't played against him, but he's finna get an out. These guys are still a very good team. They got 8 turnovers, 18 sacks. I mean, their defense is still there now. They're giving up points, but that's where we're suffering in the red zone. So even if we drive the ball down there, we still got to overcome our mental lack of whatever, why we can't get in the red zone.
Nick, I'm curious for your thought on this. When you look at, even with all the players that the 49ers may be missing, we were talking before the show here, with Kittle missing practice, Debo, all these different guys that are, Brock Purdy may be missing 85% of his career completions in this game. Even with all those guys missing, do you think this can be a bigger psychological boost for the Cowboys winning this game than any other game that's on the schedule?
Without a doubt, it could be because, they need – I don't think at the end of the day nobody cares about that because nobody cared. Detroit didn't care that they beat Micah Parsons' less team and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't care about all that. I think it will be a huge boost. I know you talk about players that are different. I go back to 1991, okay, Eagles, 1991. And you're probably thinking immediately, oh, they lost 24-0, gave up 11 sacks early in the season at home. But the end of the year, they came back and won that game. And that was a huge hurdle mentally because the Eagles were the big bad bully. You couldn't get over that hump. They made it to the playoffs by beating Philly that day, and a huge turnaround from earlier in the season to that, which is kind of what we're talking about here. Got beat 42-10 last year. Can you turn it around? It's been a year, but I think it would be a huge boost for a lot of reasons, especially because they are that big bad bully right now, and everyone knows it. And even if you were here or not, you watch the Cowboys losing to the 49ers in the playoffs, so I think it would be a huge boost.
Tommy, you've been in the locker on Monday and Wednesday when we've had some availability and gotten a chance to talk to guys like Eric Kendricks and DeMarvin Overshown and Micah Parsons and guys who, are up in the air in terms of their availability. But what's your sense of the tone and the tenor from this Cowboys team right now? Because I'll be honest, I thought Mike McCarthy coming out on Monday was great. Because I feel like for a head coach who at times I think can get on his heels a little bit in that press situation, he didn't. He came right out and said, yeah, we got to work on the bye. This is what's wrong. This is what we're going to do to fix it, and we're going to have success with it, and we're doubling down, and we're drilling down, and we're going to have it. Are you seeing that sort of focus, that mental focus, and that drive mirrored in the locker room this week?
Yeah, I am, and I think the interesting point where you saw that was Eric Kendricks today, because you think back to March when Eric Kendricks was basically a San Francisco 49er, except the ink wasn't dry. 4 days later, he becomes a Dallas Cowboy and joins up again with Mike Zimmer. So the coach speak answer, the media answer that you're going to hear is this is just another game and those kinds of things. But when you've lost the last 3, you haven't won on the road against San Francisco since 2017, you know, in the players' hearts of hearts and Mike McCarthy's hearts of hearts, it just means a little bit more, and it especially means a little bit more when you go into this game 3-3, and you need a win like this to kind of turn the tide on what you've seen so far this season. So, like Nick said, nobody's going to feel sorry that San Francisco's injured. Nobody's felt sorry so far that Dallas has been injured. So this is an opportunity for Dallas to go on the road, pick up a statement win against a team that they have struggled against in years past, and kind of. Not that they've gone off track, I don't think, this season, but they certainly haven't started how they've wanted to, right? A chance to go 4-0 on the road is a really good opportunity, and it could bode well for this team going forward because you think about the success that Mike McCarthy has had after the bye during his time in Dallas. To finish out the regular season, the Cowboys are 25-13 the last 4 years after the bye to finish it out.
Nick, what was Mike Tyson's best punch?
I mean,
all of them?
I mean, the one that connected. Usually the first one, because there wasn't a second one. I don't know. I mean,
But he had a nice right. He had a nice
I mean,
right.
the jab,
overhand right.
No, that was
But see, this is
got the jab.
This is what hurts. This is when I'm talking about a mental thing. When I'm talking about a mental thing, you named all those wide receivers missing, but they still able to muster up over 100 and some yards rushing.
Yeah, the guy ranked second in rushing, right? Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason, the NFL pro had the stat this week. Nobody has broken more tackles in the NFL this season than Jordan Mason.
And so that is still see, I believe in overdoing things. If Brock Purdy missing all those wide receivers. Kittles is banged up, and he will be on the end of the line. He don't do a whole lot of slot stuff. So you put him, he's at the end of the line. I'm going to put hands on him every time. He's going to battle to get off that offensive line. And I'm putting 12 guys up there on the line of scrimmage. I'm going to make Brock Purdy beat me. He holds the ball 3.2 seconds. I'm going to make him beat me with these backups. Now, are we willing to do that? Is Mike Zimmer willing to do that? Because if he's not, we'll face the same thing we faced.
Would you basically say, hey, stack box for Jordan Mason, we're going 8 defenders in the box, and Brock Purdy's going to have to beat me?
He's going to have to with these backups that you just said it.
Yeah.
Who's the guy that's going to be out there the most with the most experience? If not Kittle's, just another guy you brought up.
Kyle Juszczyk. If Kittle and these guys who didn't practice there, Kyle Juszczyk has the most career receptions from Brock Purdy that'll be playing in this game.
Come on, man. Come.
Yeah.
And once Kyle Shanahan is just no different than any other coordinator. If you bang him up a couple of times, running the ball, get him to about the middle of the second quarter, he can be like, man, we just ain't got it today. And he's going to start chunking it all over the field. And we may not have the greatest of pass rushers, but guys love to rush the passer. They get a new attitude when it's time to rush the passer.
You know, I want to go around really quickly before we wrap up in these last 3 minutes or so. We'll start with Tommy, go to Nick, and then down to Nate. Detroit was obviously bad game. I mean, that's it. That's one of those. All 53 just looked like they didn't have a very good game. This San Francisco game that they're coming into, who are you identifying as it's like you especially can't repeat? You need to be big this week, whether it's CeeDee Lamb or Dak Prescott or DeMarvion Overshown if Eric Hendricks is out. So who's the guy that you're targeting and saying that guy, if nobody else, has to be big in this game for them?
Yeah, I think for me it's Dak Prescott. I think that, you could kind of pair Dak and CD together. I think that connection needs to be big for you in this game because Brandon Cooks is still banged up, and you've just been searching for that and searching for it and searching for it, and maybe even sometimes it's felt a little bit forced when they've been searching for it. So if you're going to force it, you might as well find a way to make it connect, right? If that can happen, that's going to change not just how Dallas's offense looks in this game, but it's going to change the entire outlook for the season. Yeah,
I'm going to go with the guard position. One of my favorite players of all time is Zach Martin. Zach's got to play better. I mean, he has to. That was one of the worst games I think we've seen from him. Ever. And it's un-Zach Martin-like. He's got to play better because, you're leaning on BB is the center. He's the rookie, and Guyton and all that. Steele still kind of coming back, injury and all that from last year. But you can't have struggles with Zach Martin. He can't do, so I think if he goes and plays his game and comes back, then I think it'll trickle to the rest of the line.
Osa.
All right.
Osa has to, and it's been so long since he's had that because the defense is new. He's catching now more than penetrate. Osa has to show up and make 2 or 3 plays behind the line of scrimmage versus the run and get 2 or 3 sacks. He's got to go beyond what he's ever done. If Osa can turn it on, that's going to eat up blocks, and that may can get my man, he's been playing pretty consistent, Mozzie, that may can get him, going even more. But Osa has to, it's time. He's been invisible most of the year. It's time for Osa to show
I think Mozzie's the guy that, for me, if I can get New York Giants game Mozzie and the way that he performed in that ball game, if I can get that, I feel really good about your ability to kind of stop what Jordan Mason's doing and then have to force Brock Purdy to beat you. Here in the last minute or so, really quickly, we'll go down the line again. Just prediction for the game, even if not a score, just kind of general outlook for what you expect in this game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think this game has gotten a lot more interesting than when you looked at it after the Detroit game, just because of the injuries and things like that. I think because of Kyle Shanahan's scheme offensively, how well they've been running the ball and how poorly Dallas has stopped the run, I think the 49ers win a close one.
You did a boxing reference earlier. You jab first. The Cowboys are going to have to strike first in this game. If they strike first, and it'll give them the confidence. It'll kind of show the 49ers where they are in this game.
It's on the road. We taking it, baby.
Oh, I like it. I like the gut stuff.
By one?
By one, baby.
I like the gut stuff. Hey, you want to come out with a jab, Nick? Flea flicker.
Oh,
flea flicker.
Everybody knows flea flicker. I would run a flea flicker once a game. I say it all the time. Once a game. I don't know why it would be bad.
That does it for us
9.
here today on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. Thank you to Tommy Yarsh, Nick Eatman, and our special guest tonight, Nate Newton. We'll talk to you guys again next Wednesday.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?